It's important to mark National Reconciliation Week to reflect on our country's history, in particular the successful 1967 referendum that recognised Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as part of the Australian population, and the High Court decision that overturned the legal fiction of terra nullius. It's time for us really to reinforce the theme of Reconciliation Week now more than ever, which is a reminder to all of us that no matter what, the fight for justice and rights of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people will and must continue. And that includes treaty, truth-telling, and really understanding our history. At Intrepid, we'll be doing a number of internal engagements to continue that education for our people at Intrepid. And we're also launching a campaign, a fundraising campaign with our Intrepid Foundation partner, Country Needs People. So we're really proud to support Country Needs People. It's a non-profit creating opportunities for land councils and First Nations rangers to care for country, protect nature and increase biodiversity. To kick off this campaign, we're contributing $10,000. And we're inviting travel businesses to also consider making a leadership donation to inspire our industry and customers to join in this important movement. So together we're aiming to raise $100,000 before June 30th. And all donations made before June 30th will be matched by a generous Country Needs People donor, doubling the impact. I think the tourism industry is increasingly engaging more with First Nations tourism, which is great to see. When we started our RAP journey back in 2016-17, there weren't many tourism businesses with a reconciliation action plan, but now we've actually formed a reconciliation industry networking group, which TTF is part of, which is great to see. And there's a number of tourism businesses with RAPs there, really taking the first step to engaging with First Nations tourism, which is great to see. More and more travellers, both international and domestic, are seeking out Indigenous experiences in the places that they visit. I think for us, it's things like the pandemic, rising costs of living and increasing awareness of these types of experiences that are really drawing people to experience more of them, which is great. I think they offer experiential travel like no other, really. And for us, where we have a really strong mission to change the way people see the world, these First Nations experiences are so valuable because they can offer a kind of life-changing, immersive experience, which means that people not only have a great trip, but quite a transformational one. Taking the time to educate yourself first around the history of First Nations people in Australia is a really great first step. And that's the foundational part of having a reconciliation action plan. And the education part will just mean that you'll come into those relationships with a better understanding of the context, I guess, around people. And having that relationship first mindset as well, rather than potentially a business first mindset, is something to also consider, because I think developing trust and co-creating where possible is very valued, and it means you'll have a longer term relationship. Oh, I think there's so many benefits of nurturing Indigenous tourism. I think, for travellers, it really puts us in the position of being a listener and giving us a space for dialogue. And a lot of travellers haven't really engaged with First Nations people before, and it's the first time they might be listening and attempting to understand. So I think that's so valuable from a traveller perspective. There's 60,000 years of history there and knowledge that we can learn from. So there's a lot to learn. First Nations people, what we've heard is that it provides an opportunity for many to live and work on country and maintain that connection to country and to celebrate culture, but also to create job opportunities. We've learned that First Nations businesses are 10 times more likely to create jobs for First Nations people than non-First Nations businesses. So, if we're serious about closing the gap, we really need to take First Nations tourism seriously. Sustainability is really often a core part of First Nations tourism offerings. So it's all kind of interlinked really in a lot of the experiences. What we did was to actually put a target on ourselves to increase the number of First Nations experiences, so that we were really intentional about growing the impact in our product offering. And we went from 8 to over 40 experiences over a few years. And there's a lot out there that established operators can connect into. We've also created a program with PwC Indigenous Consulting called the First Nations Tourism Mentoring Program. And that's a program we're delivering, and it's reaching just over 120 First Nations businesses at the moment, supporting them to grow. And sustainability is definitely part of that training offering as well. So I wouldn't say there's huge challenges. It's all out there. Again, taking that kind of relationship first approach and admitting mistakes when you make them as well is really important, because that probably will happen, but often it's taken quite graciously, and you can just use it to strengthen relationships. So reach out to us or to the Ring Network, the Reconciliation Industry Network, if you want some support to take that first step. I think the day was just a chance for people to connect in person. And again, it really ties into that relationship first kind of mentality that's part of the Reconciliation Action Plan, and just sitting and listening to people. We had some education sessions from First Nations tourism providers, and we also learnt from each other as well. So it was quite a shared learning space, and just having the time to sit and listen. I think everyone's so busy with their day jobs, and everyone, made that whole day available to do that learning. So it's just so invaluable to do that. And I think it's, you need to give that time to understand, how it works, and to kind of see where you can grow your impact and learn from others as well. You do have to have a reconciliation action plan to join. But again, if you're thinking about that, or if you're in that process, again, happy to reach out to us at Intrepid, or connect you to Phil at Tourism Australia, because sometimes you do need a bit of support to kind of take that first step. Once you do, the Ring's there, and it's really a great way to learn from each other. We've got a whole range of different levels of RAPs in there as well, so that's something to keep in mind. There's different levels, and as you kind of progress or go up a level, there is more required, and so you do learn from others who are in those higher levels of RAP, and what they've been able to achieve is quite inspiring.